Okay, welcome everyone. We're in. Say hi, say hello, my fellow stream people. I just want to get the levels here.
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Nice. Yes, good. Okay. We're going to speed run this a little. Our guest today is Kyle. He is the head of data science at Trophy, and he is the reason why it works the way it does and the reason why anything awesome is happening. We have a lot of amazing people working here, but the true meat and potatoes of this system starts with him. So welcome, Kyle. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Kyle. Yeah, I'll say it's probably more so my fault if things aren't going well. It's definitely I'll give all the credit to my team when stuff does go well.
We do have a really great team for sure. So I was going to lead in with a little bit of background, but in the interest of time, let's just skip forward to Rocket League as a data science problem. So I want to leave the floor open for you to introduce this simply because you understand the problem much better than I do. I'm not going to say anything interesting here. So what is your mental model of this problem like at a high level?
Yeah, I mean, one thing is there's a lot of complexity in data science problems in Rocket League. Like we started, I don't know for anybody who doesn't know Trophy that well, we had originally started off in sim racing and we sort of built AI coaching tools and products around the sim racing space. In sim racing, there's still a lot of tough challenges there, and it was hard to make the product feel right. But sort of when you go from sim racing to Rocket League, one big difference is with sim racing, there's generally a set track where really you're trying to go around that track as fast as you can. There's a lot of subtlety to it and a lot of subtle things you can do to get better at that, but generally you're following the same path. The thing with Rocket League is at any moment, depending on what the scenario you're in is, you might drive forward, you might flip over to the side, you might boost up into the air. There's also a lot more entities that you need to worry about. So in racing, it's like, if you're in a race, you might need to be worried about the cars immediately in front of you and behind you, but you only really need to sort of avoid hitting them, maybe use some drifting, maybe getting behind them to drift a little better. But it's a lot less dependent on what the other entities are doing than if you take something like Rocket League. The best place for you to be at any point depends on, it's not like an objective thing. It depends on where your teammates are, where the opponents are, what patterns you've observed earlier in the game. So there's just a lot more variables and a lot more options at any time that like could be good or could be considered bad. And it's a lot more debatable. Whereas in racing, again, you can sort of look at going into a corner, and racing, a lot of the action happens around a corner. So you can look at like, okay, where are you braking? Where are you getting on the throttle? How are you smoothly transitioning between inputs? But in Rocket League, at any given moment, there's so many other factors that are going to impact the decision that really adds a lot of complexity, and it's what's made it really a cool problem for Trophy to take on doing coaching in now.
Yes, I can only imagine. So I've looked at replay data. I have tried my best to come to terms with it. Simply put, there's just a lot of info to look at. And I feel like filtering the noise out, like trying to extract meaningful signal, because there's a lot of stuff you don't actually have to pay that much attention to, right? Like if a player turns, well, I should say this. Eventually, I believe there could be a system that is like Formula One or any racing where they are looking at every single input that a human being is giving into the system and optimizing that input. We're not at that point in Rocket League yet. And in fact, that's some of the work that you're doing is defining what that even means, right? Like, what is even worth paying attention to? There are other companies that are tackling this similar problem, and but I think the simple fact is that there's just not a lot of stuff there, which means you get to deal with the noise. So how do you guys think about that? How does Trophy approach parsing out kind of meaningless information? I know it's really hard. I know that we kind of start with like simplified concepts. For example, shooting the ball at the net. It's very easy to determine those types of inputs, but I would love to hear your take on approaching and like how we're actually thinking about the data. It's at a high level anyway.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's a great question. Thanks for that, Kyle. And yeah, it's very much like you said, I feel like the Trophy's offering in Rocket League, we very much started on the simpler end. We started just trying to get some tools out there that people could start using right away, but we went on the relatively simple side. Like a lot of the current stuff we have now in our web application, again, we compute, I know under the hood, I think we compute it's getting close to like 200 data points on every
Oh
match.
my
I
God.
know we, even now, like the web app, I find we go back and forth on the feedback we get on that, but we have a lot of sort of data points that we show on the web app. We can show you generally trends, how you're trending. And we
Yep.
can also look at like sort of averages from people at different ranks, and we can get a sense for these different stats, sort of what's typical for different ranks as we rank up. The one thing we hear pretty consistently of that, and it's the reason why we don't have all 200 data points on the website, is because there's always a trade-off between people want to see a lot of information, but sometimes we go too much on the side of like, here are a bunch of stats, but if I show you 200 data points, you're not really going to make sense of it. Really, what you need then is like good prioritization, grouping things together, and really helping you focus in and say like, okay, and like I think you mentioned sort of the separating out the noise versus
Yep.
the actual true signal, and how do we do that better? And again, yes, we've got some stuff now where we'll try to leverage. We basically look at prioritizing what to work on. There's a few different things that go into our system that does that. We'll look at again, like where are you? Where do people at your rank tend to sit on some of these analytics? How do the analytics change? If you're currently Platinum 1 and say we're looking at your average speed, we might
Yep.
then look and say, okay, what's typical for speed at Platinum 1? How does that change as you go into like Platinum 2, 3, into Diamond? And we can start to look at some of those trends.
Hmm.
We also do some stuff where we work with experts to basically get them to go in and annotate some of our analytics to say like, okay, yeah, somebody at gold should be going higher on this thing. And it's always the trade-off
Yep.
between leveraging the data that we've got to sort of make these very data-driven decisions versus the using expertise and building in that subject matter expertise and finding the right balance between those. But the other thing is we've been working more and more now on some, I'll call it sort of our next generation analytics and next generation analysis that actually goes a layer deeper than the statistical stuff that we have now. Because currently we've got, I mean, as you guys well know, Trophy is in Rocket League. We very much initially went with the go wide sort of
Yes.
approach, where it was we had a lot of ideas for stuff that we thought could be helpful for people who want to get at Rocket League. So
Yep.
that can be anything from the analysis in the web app. It can be text-based summaries on the web or in the Discord bot. It can also be the specific trainings in the app, whether those are tailored math lessons, sort of AI coaching, mechanic lessons, whether those are warm-up games. But I find now we're at the point where we've got a lot of these things, and a big thing that I'm excited about that we want to move towards is better recommendation. So better ability
Yes.
to analyze what somebody's done, both looking at their play in the game and if they've engaged with any of our games or other trainings, sort of looking at those and using those to better recommend, okay, this is the training that's really going to help get you over the blocker. Because again, we went wide. We've got many now skill trees in the Trophy app and many different custom trainings to train on different skills. But I think a big thing is sort of helping our users navigate that and make it so that when a new user comes into Trophy, we can quickly sort of triage, get a sense of where they're at, and recommend them the most relevant things. So that's some work that's being kind of constantly done in the background.
Yes. So what you're just, I've heard Scott mention this as like, or describe this as closing the loop. And I think this is a really big thing that people are asking for. And it's the logical next step, right? We have training, we have, I'm going to call it surface level statistical information. There's probably a better way to phrase this, but it's like the direct, this is how long you power slid for. This is how many times you jumped. These are the demos. But now we want to like connect that somehow to the training aspect that we have, which is like, here's what you did in the game. Here is how training can possibly address some of the gaps that we noticed or whatever, how you can address specific things. Or even like you practiced flip resets a lot last week. Let's maybe practice power shots this week. Don't only practice flip resets. That's very interesting. I don't think it's easy either, right? Like I think when people suggest things, sometimes they're like, it'll be easy to implement that. But like, what do these things even mean? How do you define it? So that's where I feel like the real work that you do comes in there, where you're actually looking at the mathematical values and saying, okay, this is how we could, you try and pull, it's again, just parsing signal from the noise, and signal being defined by whatever the requirements are that we set. So you have talked about it a little bit just now. I don't know if you have any additional insights into that, but to give some fodder to the maybe semi-near future of Trophy.
Yeah, that stuff. Yeah, it's definitely like the closing the loop is one of the things I'm excited about that's coming soon. I'd say in that it's sort of looking at, I mean, both looking at, again, looking at different ranks. So saying like, okay, within like platinum, these are the exercises that if people tried with platinum, everybody got 100% success on that who were platinum and tried these. Like, they're probably not the best things to recommend to platinum people. Maybe they'd be a better recommendation for a gold or a silver. Again, if you have exercises where you look and you say, okay, most people in platinum just weren't able to complete these, you start to get a sense of, okay, yeah, maybe these are more appropriate for higher ranked people.
Yeah.
And then you also sort of get the sense of like, I mean, as you well know, like within platinum or one of those ranks, there's going to be a variety of types of people. Like, some might be very mechanically gifted, some might be very good at game sense. So it's also sort of trying to partition out people to say, like, if we could run some clustering algorithms to say, like, okay, within platinum, we find like roughly there's 3 or 5 groups of people, and we find that people in this group of platinum tend to do well on these exercises, or these tend to be within their graphs, sort of doing some recommendations based on that.
Go on, sorry. Pardon.
Yeah, I was going to say the big thing with that is, like, as more and more people play the games and engage with the content, like some of those systems, we've done some experiments with those, and generally as we get more and more data, so more and more people playing those games, we'll get better at recommending things. We did a little bit of experimenting probably a couple of weeks ago, but it's, again, we're always trying to juggle like five different cool and exciting features coming up. So we looked at that then, and we were,
so true.
I think we were like, we'll come back to it in another month or so once we've had a little bit more data coming.
Yeah.
But in terms of exciting things, like the closing the loop is definitely one. The other one is sort of, we're working at a few things. And again, it's probably if not the number one piece of feedback we get, one of the top ones. It's that cool, like the stats are great, they're interesting, like cool graphs. But what I really want is to know, like, when I'm doing something wrong, I want you to zoom in and be able to be like, hey, at this, at like 1 minute and 30 seconds into this game, you were over there, but you should have been back there. And that kind of specific, like what we'll call either moment or instance-based analysis, being able to actually like give some version of a replay playback and say, like, here are the places where things went well and things went wrong. So there's there's sort of 2 actually projects we're working at that go under that. And I'm going to talk about one a little bit later on. I've got some visuals, and I can sort of share a little bit of the research we're working on.
Yes.
And then it might actually be worth you guys bringing on Scott and maybe even Rob in a couple of weeks, and they can talk about one of the other ones. But there's sort of 2 of these models that are looking a lot more at data in a frame by frame way and trying to get a sense of how things are going.
Yeah, I think so. Honestly, yes, you're right. I do want to get Scott on here and Rob as well. I haven't talked with Rob as much, but surely everyone's perspective is going to be...
We were in the office earlier today, and they were sort of working on this other model, and they were both just at the desk sort of like talking about it. And I was like, yeah, I could see that being good I'd watch them just like go back and forth. Scott's more sort of on the product side. He's sort of in the middle of, like, he's got a bit of a background in data science, whereas Rob sort of worked on building the model. But it's really interesting to watch sort of the dynamic where Rob's a lot more into like the tech and the modeling, and Scott sort of got the ideas are always cooking of like how we can provide that value to the customers with that tech that we're building out. So it's sort of a nice dynamic to watch them brainstorming on that today.
Yes, I bet. Well, so on the topic of models, in so far as you can, or in as much as you would like to communicate, just to make it clear to people. So we got a question in the chat. They were asking which models we were using. They referenced OpenAI or Anthropic. However, I don't think that's the case. I think it is a bespoke, customized model. And in fact, I'm not sure Maybe. I mean, no shade to ChatGPT or GPT-5 or what Anthropic has created, which are incredible testaments to human accomplishment in tech and data processing. But I think we are doing our own thing, right? Do you mind talking a little bit about that? The types of, like,
Yeah.
we can get into a little bit of technical detail, a little bit, not a lot, but just like the type of model, the reason why we selected the approach if we want to. If you don't have to, but just some insight, and so people can actually get some keywords even to think about the data.
Yeah, the keywords are big, and I find especially when I sort of talk to like a more general audience, it's always like models definitely a term that gets very overloaded sometimes. In terms of like, I mean, a part of what Trophy does, where we're trying to be that coach that's really helping you learn, like obviously your coach talks to you, your coach has some language, whether it's written feedback or verbally delivering feedback, like there is a language component of that. So what we will do, our systems are pretty flexible. We've used we'll leverage for some of that final layer of just like, we figured out that the person needs to improve at their speed and their power sliding. But if we figure that out at sort of like an analytic level, sometimes to get the last layer of taking all the things that we figured out at a low level and getting natural sounding language, we'll sometimes use various of like the big LLM providers just for that final step of like our statistical models under the hood are again, sort of computing and prioritizing and saying, these are the most relevant things. This is why these things are relevant. And then we're sort of using those big commercial LLMs to just make it sound more conversational, to sort of add that last layer of conversation. We've done a little bit of experimenting with in-house models. We've also done, we tend to make everything quite flexible so that if we want to, down the road, if we notice that like, hey, Anthropic came out with a big thing that's just like changed the game, for the language layer, we tend to make our stuff so that you can swap things out pretty easily with that for that final layer. But a lot of the like core trophy tech is the stuff that basically is able to take, cool, you're playing a game of Rocket League, how to package up what are all the insights and the important data points in order to put that into a conversational agent.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like it's modular, so you wouldn't. I mean, why? There's no reason to try and compete with OpenAI on like language processing. They're just doing a great job at it, or Anthropic, or anyone. And even with like, go on.
Oh yeah, it's like you said, it's very much just it's like maybe we could it's always like with us where we're a small team and we're a small startup and we're trying to have a big impact. It's always the like trade-offs between maybe we could make a better language. I mean, maybe not better, maybe more
for our
efficient
purposes,
or better
maybe.
sense. But it's like if we can find one off the shelf that we can use and it seems to be doing a really great job and we don't have to put our extra development and research efforts into that, then we're happy to use third-party tools when it makes sense, and then sort of find what are the things that nobody else there can do now and really fill those gaps, put our research efforts to filling those gaps.
Yeah, and there's
I've even seen larger companies do that too, where they're just taking stuff off the shelf, a lot of open source software, and kind of piecing them together to make like a custom in-house solution for people. I know some of the work that I was doing over at Dell, they did a lot of that kind of work, bringing in just different types of technologies and just trying to put them together in a way that was meaningful for customers. So it's kind of crazy to see the ecosystem and the way it is with sharing software and stuff these days.
Yeah, and the nice thing about that is you actually get, like our product can basically get better over time without much manual intervention on our side. Like if we're sort of leveraging a third-party LLM to do that final layer of putting what we say into good human language, if that third-party developer makes an update to their model that makes it better at conversational skills or better at that sort of last layer of the language, then we sort of get that almost for free without having to put a lot of our development resources into improving the language. It's just if we're using that third-party model, as they get better, our whole software gets better. So it's really, really exciting thing, like when you can leverage those third-party tools to just have your product magically sort of get better over time. Both we're putting in a lot of effort to make it better in certain ways, but to have other parts of the product just naturally be getting better without us needing to put a ton of development effort. Like that's a really cool thing to be a part of.
Yes, it is. I think so. In respect of your time, Kyle, I know we're basically on the deadline, but I would like to look at any demos that you've wanted to present, or any. We'll just talk about the next part. And I think my guess is the stream's about to get scuffed because Discord's going to shift the windows on us. So, audience, please bear with.
We will, yeah. So yeah, again, like I sort of mentioned, the thing I'm most excited about that we've got coming up currently is that frame by frame analysis. And the one that I was going to talk about now is it's basically a model that's trying to look at ideal positioning. And yeah, so again, this is sort of like thrown me into a random, I put this demo together pretty quick. So this is just like, again, I've filtered out any frames near a kickoff or a goal. So this is sort of just one point in the game where it's thrown me into. So what we're visualizing here is a 2v2 game. You can see the opponents. So the opponents are the orange team over on this side, and this is their net. The sort of arrows are showing what direction they're going in and indicating their velocity. And this is your teammate here. The star is the actual position. So this was from I'll try to see what rank game. This was ranked. Okay, so this is a low rank game. Actually, it might be rank 5. I'll make it actually rank 10. I don't know. Sometimes if I modify things in a demo, I'll regret that later. But we'll
yeah. All good.
Yeah.
We're not hiding anything.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, so what are
just pick random ones.
You described this already. So we see the players and I see the ball, but do you mind describing it looks like a probability cloud or like some kind of a blob?
Yeah.
Or simplified.
Yeah, exactly. And what I've got in here is the model's still a bit uncertain. So this bar off to the side, I'll be able to hit play in a second, but basically the regions that are more highly colored are meant to be what a good position would be for the user, and the star is where the user actually is. So again, this is still under development, so don't expect it to be 100% correct, but we found tends to be pretty good. And also there's a bar off to the side that sort of indicates how uncertain it is. So the more uncertain this is, it's basically saying the model's less confident here. So this frame, this is fairly uncertain. We just sort of play it, and I find it's very interesting to watch. So that here it's a lot more certain.
I don't know what the technical term is for the cloud of description, or like it's a heat map kind of. So that is So it's more certain the brighter the color, or the less dark, effectively, right? The color is. So that's kind of where the player should be.
So it's basically saying here that probably a good place for the person to be. The user is over here, their teammates here, and the two opponents are up here. And again, their net is here. So it's again, debatable. The model's saying they should be around here. I mean, you could argue that maybe in here would be actually a better spot, but it's sort of in the right ballpark. And I would say that again, the model's sort of better than where the actual user is, where they're way off to the side. The teammate is there. Like they do seem to be fairly out of position.
I think this is good positioning. Like if I think about playing and I see where I'm seeing it as blue on my screen. It could be not blue, but the brightest spot, that would be covering the net. Like it's a good defensive posture, I would say. So I think that's pretty great, honestly.
Yeah. And there's a few things. So we've got a few ideas for features to build based off of that. And that's the cool thing with some of these more model-based approaches is now we've got this model. Again, we're still iterating on the model and making it better. But once we have this model, it will basically unlock a few features for us. There's a few, there's one that I know recently we've added to our web app, sort of these higher level scores. And there's a score that's based on your field positioning, I think. And the thing is with that score, it's okay. It does an okay job at giving you some information on your field positioning, but it's sort of limited because all it's looking at is I forget that one exactly, but it's looking at your time in the offensive third, defensive third, neutral half, and sort of looking at those things, which, I mean, as we all know, and we've heard lots of that feedback, that stuff is quite situation dependent. So there might be games when you're doing something very different from the statistical averages, but it made sense based on the context of your game. So some of what we can do, again, if we get the model to work well on this, we can basically create a score here where this frame, the user would score quite low because they're quite far outside of what the model has said a good position would be. And we can basically then average that over the game to get a sense of a positioning score that's a lot more context dependent. It's not something that any other Rocket League apps have. Like I haven't seen anything else like this.
No,
You
these
can
are the
also,
hard problems. Yeah, this is
yeah,
hard.
you can also with this like do stuff like flagging regions where if the user's out of position for a long time, you can then surface that to the user in terms of moments. So say, hey, there was a bunch of time here when you were really out of position. But yeah, it's sometimes just like cool to sort of watch it play out.
It's just a good visualizer. It's like at a basic level, it's like watching a fire or something. It's hypnotizing.
Yeah.
This is very interesting. And I think, so from an individual coaching perspective, this is very dope. But I think we can actually think about it from like an RLCS or a high level perspective as well, where it's much harder to discern because the decision making is much quicker. The gameplay is more fluid, I would say, than like a lower ranked game. People are typically stiff and like
funny.
Yeah,
it's funny you mentioned that because it's very, very true that at the highest levels you'll see very unique positioning in that. And actually, like I said, we're testing out this position scoring that's basically based on looking at evaluating your position frame by frame and saying the more time you spend in good positions, the better that is. And we're doing a bunch of things to test the validity of that before we release it to users. One of the main one is starting to look and say, like, does this tend to go up as people climb the ranks? Like, do we expect that people at gold have a higher score than people at silver and so on? And one thing that we've noticed is that basically it does that until you get up to sort of, I forget where, but it's in that very high range of MMRs that you actually, the trend starts to reverse. And if you judge people based on this model, because it's basically the model is sort of, I think it's optimized for like maybe around platinum to diamond is sort of the like person we have in mind when we're doing this.
Yes.
But yeah, that if that model that's trying to judge good positions for that ranks, that it will almost, if you apply it to somebody very high ranked, and again, it tends to work pretty well even up into like champ. It's like, cool, as you go up ranks, you're getting better scores. But then there is a point at that very high level where people are, according to this scoring, they're getting scored worse. But it's like you said, it's those people who are such a high level that they almost sort of, they know the rules and they know when to break the rules. They know like all the best practices, but they're like, normal people should do this, but because I'm an SSL and I know everything, I am going to do this thing. Really generally a bad thing, but I know I can make it work.
Well, I'm curious. So I dabbled in very basic machine learning analysis recently, where Sean came up with the concept, what does it take to win? Which stats directly contribute to a win? And when I was researching that, it seemed true that taking chunks of replays, so like gold 2 to diamond 1, and like looking at that would be one model that I would use. And then if I wanted to go higher, because the skills change as the ranks progress, right? Or just between ranks. Is that a similar scenario where you would probably, or you might just train a new model on that more advanced gameplay? Or are you trying to make a general system that can understand any rank? I know we want to do that's the goal, obviously, but practically for us, what does that look like?
Yeah, I'd say the answer to that is very much depends in the sense where I'll generally explore both. I'll generally, and again, I'll work with our product team quite closely to get a sense of what feels better. Because at the end of the day, I mean, people like us might be interested in the tech that powers it, and I'm sure that there's probably some people on the stream are, but really we're like, at the end of the day, we always sort of want to be like, at the end of the day, it's the user experience that's going to matter the most. Like if we have super cool algorithms, but they don't feel good to a user who's using the product, like, that's no good, versus if we've got some very like boring algorithms under the hood, but it feels awesome to a user, like that's going to be the way that we'll go in the end.
I love this visualization, by the way. This is incredible. I'm noticing the like effectively black circle immediately around the ball, where the system is like, you probably don't necessarily want to be here.
Yeah, and especially if like you're depending on where your ally is, like here it's pretty around the ball, but now the teammate's coming in, so it's like that's a fair position. Like here, your teammate is on the ball, so it's more like, all right, the person here is probably a good positioning for the user if the teammate's right on the ball. Yeah. But I think it's more so if the teammate is not on the ball, then it'll tend to suggest the user to be the teammate
to be on the ball. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's interesting. see in the app, or is this just what's going on behind the scenes and we would just see a score? Like in the
Yeah,
app?
so we'd probably longer term want to get some visual into it in the web app. Like it's very much, and I mean we're big on taking in feedback from the community. So like if people see this and they want some version of it in the web app right away, like go on our Discord, make some noise. That helps us. It's not sort of the be all end all to prioritization, but if we know that we've got things that people are very excited about, yeah, then that can help us get them into the app faster. With something like this, I can I've done this in my own like personal visual, which isn't like if we were to do it in the web app, we'd need somebody from the team who's more actively working on the web app to build out that visual for there. The scores, like our data science team sort of is the owners of a lot of our scores. So that's why I've got the score in a mind is just something that I know I can get out relatively quickly. We can get it over the finish line and get it out into our users' hands so that people can get a feel for it. It should also, with our infrastructure, we've got our overlays for post-match, and we've got these trend overlays. So one of my thinking is that if this positioning score feels really good, you should be able to see it in your trend overlay at the end of the match and get a sense of if you're really trying to focus in on position. But at the end of the day, you're right that even if you like have that trend and I show you, maybe you're not really improving your position, probably the next step is going to be, okay, I'd like a visual so that I can understand like where are the times that I am being out of position.
Yeah.
So also with this visual, like one thing that's probably needed is being able to easily skip to regions where you're out of position. So like here, that's a good example. Oh,
so you'd like flag particular like outlier moments, right? In the
yeah, so it's like here, if we look at this moment, actually, if I play it back, well, it's sort of, so now the user's way out of the action.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're way out of the action for quite a long time. So I might want to surface that to be like, hey, look, the play is way down there. You were way up there for this period. Like, and at least alerting them, being like, okay, your position score was low. If you want to know why, maybe link to a visual like that says like, cool, here's like 3 seconds when you were way out of the play back there. That's the reason why you scored low. Like try to avoid doing stuff like that in the future and really giving them because the numbers are nice. And like, I find the trend overlay, it's sort of nice to be able to track your progress on a metric, but sometimes you'll get frustration if the user doesn't really have a sense of why they're getting the score and they don't really feel like there was that time in that match where I was in a position I can recognize as bad for a while. I'm really going to focus at avoiding that going forward.
Yeah, I think even at minimum, if you just took a screenshot of like a bad positioning example and was able to surface that in some way, like it would be so much more helpful in understanding what the number means in some way. You know what I mean? Like, it's one thing to see a number, it's another to have like sort of a visual representation of what that number is actually telling you.
Yeah.
And we just to tie this into what is currently available and the tools that people currently use, right now we have effectively what is a ball chasing analysis of a game, time behind ball, time in front of ball, time in defensive third, whatever. But that is so hard for someone who's very like
we hear all the time. Like it depends so much on the context. Like if the opponents are putting on a ton of pressure, like you're going to have to be in the defense for more than is average because they're you just have to do that to react. And the idea is that if this works well, that it will be like, okay, no, that team was applying a lot of pressure, so this person spent a lot of time in the defensive region, but that's really it's not like I shouldn't be telling them to spend more time in the offense because there was a ton of pressure applied to them throughout this game. So just going in messing around in the offensive zone when there's pressure on, like that's not good advice. So we're trying to get a lot more context dependent. I think I'm gonna have to drop in like
no, you're good.
5 minutes. Whenever
you gotta go.
I see there was a couple of more messages here in the chat. So
there are a lot. Yes.
Quickly answer a couple of those. I see the confidence rate is basically sort of, it's more internally we're looking at it, but it's basically the way that the model works. It's just sometimes under the hood, like here, it's pretty sure that the person should be around here somewhere, but maybe there it's a lot more ambiguous about where the model should be. So, and that would again probably come into our score depending on how we do it. But the thought would be, I'm going to penalize somebody more for being out of position when the model is quite confident that they're in a bad position, versus if the model's quite unsure, then that's going to be less relevant to surface to somebody. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, I see Sparrow, one of our constant supporters, Sparrow, had a question about, is it normal for players to just stand there? Not super normal. I mean, some of it might have been that I paused. I don't know. But it's actually surprising, I found, reviewing this. So if I I might pick a fairly high rank like Diamond and be just like, I'm going to watch back. And you'll see things that are surprising, where like sometimes you might see somebody stalled out for a bit, or you'll see teammates really crowding each other, where again, sometimes you'll hear stuff like, oh no, at that high rank, like people are never going to be crowding their teammate. And then you watch these visuals back and you're like, oh, well, that actually looks pretty. I mean, even here you see like, oh, what just happened there? But you see there's teammate, user, opponent are all sort of bunched in right there.
Yes.
And again, I don't know enough to know if there are cases when that's good or bad, but it's just sort of the surprising things where sometimes you talk to experts and they'll say like, okay, at high ranks, teammates are they're always going to be rotating very well. And then you start looking at this data and you're like, oh,
is that true?
Maybe they're more likely to be in good rotations, but not in all the teams.
And you'd have to consider like at an RLCS level, which is very high, they are communicating with each other very efficiently compared to just a normal gameplay. So it's almost impossible to factor that in. However, I think like if you look at a GC3 or SSL, they're just going to be bunched in the corner less. You're going to see it a lot less. They may still do it, but typically they're going to try and not be in the scenario you have on your screen here, unless it's just like a dire last stand at the Alamo type scenario where there's almost no... the ball's going to go in soon, effectively. I guess you could even determine from this graph and then ball proximity and direction what the likelihood of like a goal happening soon is, like defensive breakdown.
Yeah, we've actually, like I sort of teased that Rob and Scott might have some cool stuff to talk about. And actually the stuff that they're working on is more of that flavor of sort of looking at, and there's potential in what they're looking at to look at a few things, like again, who's going to score next. We're starting to see some signals of being able to do a good job at, or again, we're working on this, we're getting better, but getting a sense of what teams applying more pressure and sort of measuring how the pressure is changing throughout a game. Again, who's going to score next, and also some stuff of looking at swing moments. So looking at detecting moments where it seems like the orange team's going to score next, and then they don't. Like that's something that's interesting.
That's crazy.
Like, if you go from, it seems like you're not really going to score, and then something happens and you're quite likely to score, like zooming in on what happened there. But again, the two biggest things, if we zoom out, because again, I'm going to have to drop in like a minute.
Yes.
That I'm most excited about are, one is that closing the loop. So being able to better use all of the analysis we're doing based on our games and training to get really good at recommending people the thing that they need to help them get to that next level. And then on the other side, it's relying less on those like broad-based statistics that just look at statistics over a game, and more so really narrowing down to like the frame-by-frame analysis, or to the zooming in on specific moments, and being able to provide that good context, whether it's how much pressure is going on here, whether it's how is the positioning, so a few other things of that flavor. But yeah, we're really excited to be queuing up some of that stuff, and happy. Yeah, I definitely recommend getting Rob and Scott on to chat.
Yes.
And I'm also happy to come back. And
I would love to, because I have so much I want to talk to you about.
Yeah, I'd love to chat again.
Yes, I thank you, Kyle, very much. You really appreciate the time you've taken, and the work you're doing is awesome. I just want to keep talking about it. So very, very inspired. I hope people got a lot out of this conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kyle and Sean, for hosting this. I really, really appreciate it. But yeah, I've got to run and get ready for my next meeting. Thanks again to everybody who showed up and who listened to me ramble on. I hope it wasn't too boring. And have a great rest of your day. I'll see you guys later on.
Thanks.
Yep. So, in case everybody's wondering if you're interested in trophies, you can go to our website. You can always start a 7-day free trial, and then join our regular plan. And then if you even want even more coaching, you can even get one-on-one coaching by signing up for the premium plan. So feel free to cruise on over to our website if you haven't already, and check it out.
Yes. And I think we are trying to get more people into our Discord. We try and pop in there as frequently as we can, which is pretty regularly now, and I'm trying to do more. Sparrow has gamed with us. We're willing to game with you guys, do whatever. Kyle, who just spoke, he comments in there frequently. So if you wanted like specific questions answered, please come in. We are more than happy to. We're more than happy to say hello. 1 second. Sean, tell me what your thoughts are about listening to Kyle. What excites you? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think this thing is that he was just showing off is really cool. I want to see where I stand on it in a lot of ways. I'm sure in a lot of ways I think I'm doing well in positioning and stuff like that. And looking at the stats that I've seen, it is kind of hard to read sometimes what exactly how things are being scored and stuff. And so that visual was really cool. Can't wait to hopefully see more of that for sure. But I think it's really showing that like they're doing a lot behind the scenes and to try to really analyze gameplay and provide us with some real actionable insights.
Yes. So obviously the overlay or the presentation he showed was pretty exciting. Like I love seeing the very high level your positioning was good or bad here, because that's stuff you and I have been asking for like for a while. I feel like in some way or another, maybe it's not exactly what, but I feel like it kind of gets to the heart of the kind of problems that you and I would like to see addressed, right? Like, I don't know how you feel
more
about
sort of user focused things. So like, right, the app is great for things of trainings and shot packs and all that and practice and getting yourself warmed up and that kind of thing. And they've just been doing so much work behind the scenes related to the data science of it and all, and just waiting to see more of that kind of surface and become more actionable insights. And it just should be really cool to see what they've got going on.
Yes. I do think so. To me, it would be cool to do like a round table with Scott and Kyle and Rob, like he was talking about, and get everyone together. That would be cool, like as a longer stream. I feel like kind of a long form content. Whenever anyone has time to do something like that, which I feel like it's never, but maybe we could get something figured out. But it would be cool to get everyone's perspective who was working on that stuff directly, because they're all going to have different like insights into everything.
Yeah, everyone's got a unique, diverse perspective on things.
Yes, they do. Okay, I think so. We could do gameplay. Let's see if there's any additional. Yeah, scavengers, a software dev on a round table. I guess they could fight with like keyboards or something. We could have them battle out their actual Rocket League gameplay. We didn't even ask Kyle about this, but it would be interesting to hear his perspective on the racing side. I know we did Rocket League stuff recently, but racing would have been interesting to hear him talk about too. So hopefully we can get him on later about that kind of stuff. Scavengers, how does the data translate to software? So we didn't get into Kyle's background, but he effectively was training on sparse data sets, meaning there's not a lot of data, and his research is about generating high quality synthetic data from data sets. So what that means for Rocket League is kind of what we were seeing, where you can get like deeper insights. And also he has a PhD. I forgot to congratulate him. So Kyle got his PhD in 2023, so 2 years ago. Machine learning stuff, adversarial neural networks, like mostly in finance stuff. And so, yeah, I know, how dope is that? Anyone who gets the PhD finish line is a. Oh, he did.
It's a lot of education.
Yeah, that's a lot of education, and it's non-trivial. CS 1002. Yeah, scavengers. Oh, he taught discrete math. I should ask him, because I did bad on that class. I got a C.
I got a C.
in discrete math. Yes, dude. I'm sure he would have actually insane info. I'm sure actually all the people who are pulling data out of replays have crazy knowledge. And I'll let you lead. You choose what we do. Yeah, do it. Drop shot. I've been playing that a lot, actually.
I love drop shot. I like it as a good way to warm up, to be honest.
The wall reads, man. It's like, if you want to train them, there is no better way. It's all walls. That's all it is. I'm in RSC. Yeah, I'm on Monster Mash. Not EU. Not RSC EU.
Oh, I just messed up.
Oh,
Forgot what I was doing.
our homie. I've been communicating with the EU RSC a lot lately too, and those guys are really nice. I think we're going to actually be interviewing some of them in a few weeks. To at least one of the founders, and then the head lead developer of RSC EU. It is not easy to game and chat at the same time.
That didn't hit the floor. Are you kidding me?
I know, that's this game mode.
Yeah, there's some definite bugs with this game mode or something. Like, there's just some stuff just doesn't seem to work right.
People get some crazy saves. Oh, I turned away. My bad. I have not played yet today, and it is showing.
Yeah, we haven't really warmed up. This is literally the first
This is the warm-up.
Oh, look at that save.
That's crazy. That was demonic by you, to be honest.
That was a pretty good save.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I would love to see some like high-level drop shot, to be honest.
Oh my god, you don't see it anywhere. Like, it's barely even on YouTube or anything.
I remember when the mode first came out, Squishy Muffins was playing it a little bit, but it'd be dope if there was actually crazy gameplay.
Yeah,
'cause you can get some
I can only
dope.
imagine what they would do.
Like the ceiling plays would be amazing.
Yeah. Oh, I just saved that, and so didn't he.
Hey, man, it's all part of the fun. Back pass. Yeah, he probably didn't need to touch that ball. All good. All good. We're gonna lose because of him, but it's all good.
Always your teammate, right?
Yeah. I'm just kidding, by the way. That is not actually what I mean. I'm definitely playing like a hot cabbage. I think our teammate's pissed at us, man. He's not even over here.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've
good.
been seeing a lot more of this lately, to be honest. Like, I
People like this.
This past week, it's been pretty toxic for some reason.
I think because we're like in the midpoint of the season, it can get this way sometimes, where people want to rank up and they're frustrated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I noticed. That's why I have chat off. I'm a chat off Andy. Oh, I hear double audio. Yes! I'm cracked.
Okay,
Oops.
well, at least you got 1 point.
That was definitely calculated and not just an accident. I'm still in this freaking car. I forgot to switch out. Actually, I'm going to stay in now that I said that. Oh, I don't know how to play with this thing. Oh, God. Oh, God. You just stay on. I'm leaving you alone. Sorry, buddy. Nice flick. That was actually a good pass. Mamma mia. I wish I was good enough to actually capitalize on it. Faking. Holy. Are you behind you, Sean? Nice. Nice, dude. Oh, I forgot we're in comp. Let's go. No, I definitely feel I wish I would have switched out.
Back to you.
Waiting for his touch here. I'll take this boost. No way, dude. Nice save. Yes.
Oh, and I get it!
Good job.
I don't know how I juggled that one, but okay.
Sparrow, I think,
take it.
yeah. I think Josh mostly just does freestyle stuff. I think he plays, too, a lot. In fact, last year he tried to he did an RLCS run, but I think whenever I see him on, he's in training in my friends list. You know what I mean? So Oops, I was not thinking about what I was doing.
Well, I think one of the things that Josh was saying, like even Rocket League itself, as a company, has been kind of a little unfriendly to the
freestylers.
Freestylers in a way.
Holy.
But we are also seeing a lot more freestylers like becoming actual pro level league players too.
Well, like Joyo's a classic example. Yeah, Sparrow, we learned during the Josh interview there are different types of freestylers, I guess. It is like Baby Merc. It actually is. There's different types of freestylers, and apparently there's a category that has to do with clipping in rank. So it is a thing. All right, I am ready when you are. Let's do one more game and then call it a good stream.
Okay.
What do you say?
Yeah.
Bang, look at you. Nice shot. Does he get the boost? No. Ooh.
How did he beat me?
Yeah, I think there's lag. It's been pretty bad lately over me.
The servers have been messed. They must be really messing with stuff.
They
They're
switched
definitely
something.
playing with something.
Yeah.
But it probably has to do with a lot of the Fortnite stuff.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. My bad.
That went way over you.
That was a great pass.
I threw it right over your head.
Wow, it's a little too close. Kyle's demo he was showing would have shown me in a bad position there. Air Charge, yeah, Sparrow, I have heard of Air Charge. He's great. Really good. We have tried to communicate with him. I think we'll probably try again, but I would say he's a really cool coach. Yes. I can't see it. No. Not that good. Not that good. Okay. All right. I think we're gonna call it there. If you like what you saw today, please sign up for Trophy. We've got a lot more content coming. We've got, as you heard from Kyle, we've got a lot more products being developed. The comments that people make, we hear, and we're trying to create solutions to address them. From control inputs, for example, keyboard, mouse, we were having discussions about that this week. Everything you can imagine. Like we have a really competent, capable team. So feel free to join. At least hop into the Discord and see what's up. All right. Okay, everyone.
Yeah, we're always there.
We're always there. We're ready for you. We want to hear you. Want to play games with you. There's more to come. A lot more to come. So anyway.